Welcome to this channel. In the previous video, we talked about the concept of network communication, which is communication between terminal devices through a data communication network. We compared the information transfer process to the real object transfer process, and we actually saw that these two processes are actually more similar than we expected. We noticed that in network communication, terminal devices such as computers and phones normally exchange information. And we saw a number of terms associated with this exchange. We talked about payload, packet, trailers and headers, encapsulation, decapsulation, gateway, among other terms. But more importantly, we saw that this exchange happens only through a data communication network. But what is a data communication network? What makes up a data communication network? What do the different parts of a data communication network do to make sure that the communication happens? In this video, we are going to look at the structure of a data communication network, the components of a data communication network, and the different functions of each of the most common devices in the data communication network. When you have an office area, another office area, another office area, people in these office areas are connecting to devices we call switches. These switches are connecting to stronger switches that are providing redundancy for traffic to go all the way up and maybe even reach the internet and come back. This, ladies and gentlemen, is what we call a data communication network. Now, as you can see, this data communication network has really a lot of devices. It has the devices we call routers. Now, in this particular diagram, there is no explicit router, but this is a layer 3 switch which performs the function of a router. This is also a layer 3 switch. Number 2 is a switch. Number 3 is a firewall. Now, this one is a security device. This one says, that part is not secure, but this part is secure. So traffic from that part is not allowed to get into this part, but traffic from this side is allowed to go out. That is a firewall. We shall see basics of firewalls as we go on, but that is the third device. The fourth device we have is the access controller, but we are going to look at access controllers. They help control access points, which is the fifth device in our network. Access points such as this one. Now, of course, we also have PCs, we have servers, we have printers, and so on and so forth. A switch is normally going to be the device that is closest to the users. So when you have a PC, the device it directly connects to is going to be a switch. When you have a server, the device it connects to directly is going to be a switch. It gives access to the network for the users, and it's also the one that switches data frames. So when you have a data frame from PC1 and it's going to PC2, it is the switch that will intelligently switch the frame to this interface so that it proceeds to where it needs to go. So those two basic functions are functions of the switch. So on a campus network, it is the device closest to the end user, as I've mentioned, and it is used to connect the end users to the campus network. That's why we call it an access device. Switches work at the access layer, that is also called layer 2 of the TCP/IP model. So these layer 2 switches are also called Ethernet switches. The Ethernet switch can implement a number of functions, but mainly we are going to have layer 2 switching and access of terminals. It is the way terminals reach the network. Another function that we have for these switches is what we call layer 2 redundancy. A broadcast domain is simply a set of nodes or a set of terminals that can receive a broadcast packet. A broadcast packet is a packet that is sourced from a terminal to be received by everyone on the network. Such a packet is called a broadcast packet. Now, a broadcast domain is a set of computers. In this case, we have PC1 and 2 and 3 and a server here. All these are in the same broadcast domain. What that means is that if PC1 sends a broadcast packet, PC2 and the server and PC3 will all receive it. When we have different broadcast domains, it means a broadcast packet sent in one domain will not be able to get into the other domain, like this example. This is broadcast domain A, and this is broadcast domain B. What this means is that if PC, let us say PC1, PC2, server 1, PC3, PC4, when PC1 sends a broadcast to the switch, this broadcast will be sent to all devices of this broadcast domain. This broadcast will be sent to this router interface because it is in this broadcast domain, but routers isolate broadcast domains. So a router will not permit the broadcast from PC1 to cross to another broadcast domain. The broadcast will be flooded in the same local area network, in the same broadcast domain. So that is what a broadcast domain is. A router is a network layer device that forwards data packets on the internet. They forward data packets based on the destination address in the received IP packet. The router will select the path and send the packet to the next router towards the destination, or even to the destination itself if it's attached to the destination. Now, the last router, also called the last hop, is the one that is responsible for sending the packet to the destination hosts. Routers have a number of advantages or functions, implementing communication between networks of the same type or different types, isolating broadcast domains, I've explained that, maintaining the routing table, which is like a map of the network. I can find this network here, I can find this network here, I can find this network here, I can find. A router has a routing table that maintains details of how to reach each of the destinations in the network, selecting routes and forwarding IP packets, implementing wide area network access, and even network address translation, we shall talk about those, and also connecting layer 2 networks that are established through switches. This is the example we have here. So we have one layer 2 network established using this switch, and another layer 2 network established using this switch. The router will connect the two networks together. So we have talked about switches, we've talked about routers. Let us talk about firewalls. Firewalls isolate networks based on trust levels or based on security levels. It will disconnect these from that side and from this side. In order for someone here to speak to someone there, the firewall needs to be told to permit. And if someone on the other end of the internet needs to speak, the firewall needs to be given a rule to permit that kind of traffic. The firewall is normally located between two networks, but the two networks need to have different trust levels. If it is the same trust level, then there is really no need for deploying a firewall, because the firewall controls the communication between two networks and it forcibly implements unified security policies to prevent unauthorized access to important information. So we use it for isolating networks of different security levels. We use it for implementing access control using security policies that are deployed between networks of different security levels or trust levels. We use it to implement user identity authentication. We also use firewalls for remote access or to implement remote access, supporting encryption and virtual private network services, implementing NAT, network address translation, and implementing a host of other security functions. So we've talked about switches, we've talked about routers, we've talked about the firewall now, and now let me talk about wireless devices. So when we talk about wireless devices, we are really talking about access points and we are talking about access controllers. Sometimes we are also talking about the power over Ethernet switches. Now, I don't want to talk about this right now. I want to talk about the access point and the access controller. I believe each of you has come across a device that looks somewhat like this, and then it gives you Wi-Fi. Many people call it the Wi-Fi router. Now, in fact, this Wi-Fi router is an example of an access point. However, this particular access point that we call a Wi-Fi router is the access point we call a FAT access point. Why do we call it a FAT access point? Because it does everything on its own. You configure the SSID, the Wi-Fi name, you configure the password on it, you configure authentication on it, you configure routing on it, you configure, everything is configured on the device itself. Now, what is the benefit of that? You configure one device and you're good to go. But that benefit also tells you it is best for small office or home office networks, what we call small office, home office networks. If we are dealing with a large enterprise network where we need about 20 access points and we use that type of Wi-Fi router access points, then we need to configure 20 different access points, giving them the same Wi-Fi name, giving them the same password, giving them the same user accounts for authentication, giving them each of them the same default gateway, giving them the same static routes. 20 devices that can be held. And because of that, we have another kind of access point that we call the fit access point. Now, in the fit access point, we don't configure anything in the fit access point. We configure the access controller so that we set up the access controller to work together with the fit access point so that the controller can deliver configurations to the fit access point. Now, this is very important and very useful because it means we can configure one access controller and use it to control 1,000 fit access points. So this controller will deploy the configurations to all the 1,000 fit access points and monitor them and make sure they all function well. The only thing you as the network admin will do is to monitor the functionality to configure the access controller. Now, this means that we have the FAT access point deployment and we have the SC plus fit access point deployment. Note that for fit access point, it must work with an access controller. Now, talking about in particular Huawei wireless devices, our access points work in 3 modes. The access point can work as a FAT access point. It can work as a fit access point. It can also work as a cloud-based access point. Now, what about cloud-based access points? These are access points that are controlled in the cloud. They are controlled in the internet. They are good for small to medium-sized enterprises. It needs to work with cloud-based management platforms for unified management and configuration. There are several functions that are performed by such access points, and the best of them all is that they support plug and play mode of operation. So those are the basics about the network devices that we deploy in our Datacom network. First of all, we talked about the router, and secondly, we talked about a switch. I wish anyone could help me mention the third one. Thirdly, we talked about a firewall. Well, someone can guess the fourth one. And finally, we talked about wireless devices, which contain the access point and the access controller. For the access point, we said it could be a FAT access point, it could be a fit access point, or a cloud-based access point.